In this video, we're going to look at solving quadratic equations by quadratic formula. This will be our go-to method when we really can't figure out any other way. The quadratic formula takes the general form equation for quadratic, which is ax squared plus bx plus c, and it completes the square with the variables in there. And lo and behold, you end up with the quadratic formula. The only reason that we don't suggest doing the quadratic formula on every quadratic equation is the fact that it takes a longer time to substitute into all these variables and then simplify. You can do it. It will work every time, but it's the long way. So, x equals the opposite of b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Let's dive right in and look at an example. I have not tried tic-tac-toe on this, so I don't know if it'll work or not. I have not tried completing the square, even though it wouldn't be too awful bad. But I'm just going to go straight into quadratic formula because that's what the directions tell me to do. So I'm going to identify A, B, and C. First of all, be sure it's set equal to 0. That's number one priority. A is 2. B is 2. C is -1. Now be certain when you do this that this is in standard form. A must be the coefficient of the quadratic term. B must be the coefficient of the linear term, and C must be my constant term. If somebody mixes up the order on us, it doesn't matter. I still have to put them in the right place. All right, now because I don't memorize well, I'm going to sing to you for just a minute. X equals opposite b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay, now I'm ready to substitute. So I've got the opposite of b plus or minus square root of b, put that in parentheses just in case it's negative, squared, maybe, minus 4 times a times c, all over 2a. And then I simply need to simplify. How do I simplify, especially on a 4 function, since I can't use my fancy graphing calculator? 2 squared is 4. 4 times 2 is 8 times -1 is -8. So minus a negative is the same as plus a positive. And 2 times 2 is 4. So this is -2 plus or minus square root of 12 over 4. Now, some of you who have been doing all of your work, you've done so many square roots of 12 so far, you can just do that in your head. But for those who can't, square root of 12 simplifies into square root of 4 times 3, because 4 is a square number. And so that's 2 square roots of 3. Now, let's talk for a minute about simplification here. There are 2 ways to go through doing this, but I'm going to show you the way that most students find easiest. If you need help finding another way, let me know. But I'm going to break this fraction down into -2 over 4 plus or minus 2 over 4 square roots of 3, and then simplify 2 smaller fractions. So this is -1/2 plus or minus 1/2 square root of 3. So to put it as a solution set, I simply break those apart with a -1/2 square root of 3 and a plus. And then I box it in and call it my final answer. Okay, so quadratic formula is not going to be too awful bad on us. It's just time consuming. But let's look at one more example, and this is one that I would not complete the square on because it's going to go straight into fractions because I can't half that 1 without going into fractions. So, by the way, tic-tac-toe won't work either. I know that because I know my factors of 24 fairly well because I use them all the time. And if you'll notice, 3 times 8. 4 times 6 ends up down here on the bottom. And with different signs, that's going to give me a difference of 2. The smallest number that can be my linear number in tic-tac-toe work would be a 2. So I know tic-tac-toe won't work. It's not going to be factorable, which tells me that my answers are not going to be rational. I'm going to have either irrational or complex. Okay, so let's go into it anyway. A is 4, B is 1, C is -6. So X equals opposite B plus or minus square root B square minus 4AC all over 2A. Okay, I'm ready now to just do a little arithmetic. So that's -1 plus or minus square root of 1. 2 negatives make a positive. 6 times 4 is 24 times 4. That's 80 and 24. That's 104 over 8. So that's -1 plus or minus square root of 105 over 8. Now, without a calculator, simplifying this 105 might be a little tricky, but I recognize that, of course, 5 goes into it, so does 3, okay? So I'm going to say, oh, let's do the 5 first. That leaves me 21. So this is 5 times 3 times 7. No square numbers going into it, so it is simplified form. So that's a good thing. So I can say this is -1/8 plus or minus 1/8 square roots of 105. Not the neatest of answers, but not the most difficult either. So plus or minus 1/8 square roots of 105. There's my minus, -1/8. Here's my plus. And I get to box it in and say final answer. My solution set, the only 2 numbers in the whole world that are going to make it work.